Okay, this video is just to show you um, the spec sheet comparison that we will do um, that was added to this assignment for spring 2026. So once we're done calculating our points of measure in our measure chart, what we can do is we can copy. So we're going to just select, click and highlight all of the specs, not the points of measure, not the operations. Um, and we're just going to Control C to copy. Okay. And then we're going to open up our spec sheet, right? And in this spec sheet, this has been adjusted. So here we have our grading that we use to grade our pattern. In this middle row, this middle chart, we're going to paste our values in here. And over here on the side, this chart has formulas in it that's going to calculate the difference between this measure chart and your graded spec. So the first thing I'm going to do is paste the values in here. Now, it's important that you have a blank row for your for this bodysuit here. So if you had copied your points of measure like this, you should be good. You should have a row that's blank in your actual measure chart. You'll see I have this here. Okay. Um, okay. So now the only thing we then have to do is copy the base medium size to this graded spec, because right now this is just the grading, but what we want is for it to populate actual values. Okay. For some reason, this Excel has been giving me some strange text instead of actually calculating formulas. So it may be helpful just to highlight these cells and change them to numbers with decimal places. Now, you're going to have a few, especially on curves like front rise, back rise, where you have a little bit off from zero, and that is fine. We expect to see that. We expect to see that in the any type of segment that is on a curve, because we're really only grading the rise curves here and here. So, and we do have a value here, but we're not really changing the curve at this point. Now, if you wanted to get perfect with it, you could absolutely come into this curve and add a grade point and change it manually. But really my rule of thumb is on something like this, as long as we're about a 16th of an inch, this one's a little bit over that, it might probably be okay. If I was going into production, I may go in and tweak these extra smalls and extra larges on the front rise. And that's it. So really we're looking for as close to zero as possible. If you do see something that's really off, this is the order in which I would check. First, I would check to make sure that whatever measure line you're using to measure that particular point of measure actually has grade on it. Okay, so make sure all of your measure lines are actually extending to the edge of the piece. So for example, if my knee was off by 1/4 of an inch, I would come in here and check my knee measure line on all sides to make sure that it has the correct grade rule number on it. Okay, if they all have the correct grade rule number on it, then I would go and check that that number is correct. So I would compare that grade rule number, right, 12 here, 15 here, to the schematic that's in your handout to make sure that the correct rule number is applied. Once you've done that, if there's still an issue, I would make sure that your rule table is correct. So I would go back to AccuMark Explorer, open up your rule table, and double check that those values are what they should be. That's the best way to go about fixing any of these errors. Now, I will tell you, I have one error in my formulas here. This cargo flap height at center should be 1/8 of an inch for all sizes. So the formula should be 1/8 plus 1/8 minus 1/8 minus 1/8. I think the mistake was that I used 1/4 on the two outside sizes. Okay, so you can change that over here in the graded spec page. You also don't have to. I will not count off for that because that was my mistake. And that is it for this. You'll save this as your own spec sheet. You'll turn this in with your model, orders, markers, grade rule tables, cost calculation. Okay,